So we're still in Garberville, and it is still September 23rd, a Monday, and we are speaking with Jackie Pantaleo, who is a board member at the Mateel Community Center and has been in this area for 40 years. Starting to get to know her way around.
Yeah.
Not getting lost too often, all right?
No, I have a few years of observation under my belt. Yeah.
Okay. We are at the, it's the town square, is that correct?
Garberville Town Square.
Tell us a little bit about the town square.
Well, the town square used to be a parking lot for the health food store, Chautauqua. Very, it was dirt filled with potholes. And a group of community members got together and wanted to purchase the property and convert it into a square where the people of the town and visitors could come and sit in a nice location and relax. And it is developed and has been developing. They have plans on putting a restroom here, an actual flushing toilet here, but their policy has been that the transients and the homeless are not allowed to sit here.
Who makes those policies?
The board. Their board. They make those policies. One of their board members used to have a physical therapy practice right off here at the side, and anytime anybody with backpacks or groups of people would come in to sit down, he would come out of his business and shoo them away.
And that's legal to do that?
It's legal because I guess they're a private, it's a private property situation, and they've allowed it to be used, created it for the use of the community here.
So out at the Mateel Center, you do provide a meal out there, or is it 2 a week?
The Mateel meal program has been going for 19 years.
Wow, long
and
time.
The Mateel Center has offered the meal up free, beautiful, delicious, organic, as much as possible food, 3 days a week, Tuesday through Thursday. Every week for a great number of years.
How many people would you say were showing up for that?
Well, seasonally, it has a different population. This time of year, heading into the fall, because of economic factors and whatever else, the towns fill up with a lot of travelers, a lot of
How about the whatever else maybe being the marijuana industry?
Yes, well, that's what it is. It's the marijuana industry.
Okay.
And but
it's not a secret.
Right. It goes from maybe 25 people in the winter time up to 120, 130.
Ooh,
sometimes
that's a
more.
jump.
Right. It fluctuates wildly, depending upon the time of year.
You mentioned something interesting before we started taping. You had was it a memorial there last night?
It was last weekend, and it wasn't a memorial. It was a benefit and a goodbye party for one of our longtime community members and someone that is very deeply loved. And instead of waiting until after a person passes, if the passing is inevitable, we prefer to give them a huge party before they die.
Oh, how beautiful.
And in that way they can see, people can come up to them and tell them how much they love them. And the hall was decorated beautiful, incredible food.
Wow,
all day long, and free, like I said.
You mentioned something about 3 European girls, and I've been hearing this quite a bit about the European travelers.
Right, well, we get a lot of European travelers that come through here, and that isn't related to the marijuana industry necessarily. The Redwood country is known all over the world, and people come from all over the world to visit here. And when you're in Europe, I spent a little time there in France, people travel. They travel by thumb, they travel by train. You can buy a token that will get you on any mode of transportation whatsoever. And the travel is you're treated respectfully. There's hostels, there's places where they can eat.
We talked about a hostel earlier today with Paul and Kathy.
Right, and they are not looked down upon. This is the way that youth and people have done for probably hundreds of years.
It used to be like that when I was in college and quite a while ago. But,
right, well, the girls had come up to this benefit the other night. And of course they were invited in. And their comments, they were lovely girls, they were, in their early 20s. They were lovely girls, and they were saying that they had never ever in any of their travels been treated so poorly and made to feel so bad about their mode of travel. They found that they were classified in with the transient population. There was no distinction between any of the people who are walking around in backpacks.
Yeah, that word gets around, when people start talking about that.
Right.
Jackie, you've been on a working group for quite some time. A couple of years now, I think.
It's a couple of years. We were born out of 2 town hall meetings that were instigated, one might say, by Deborah.
Yay, Deborah.
You probably heard her birthday gift to the community.
We
was
did
to
film
plant a
that on our
porta-potty.
last episode,
Right.
yes.
Well, because of the outrage in the community over the placement of that restroom, we decided as a town, actually, to call together town hall meetings to bring these issues up to be dealt with. We noticed that the polarization off on this side, primarily with merchants, we had the attitude of eradication, elimination, and relocation. Mm-hmm. And that's the only ways of dealing, talking about, or otherwise with the transient population and the homeless population. They have no
Seems pretty harsh.
solutions. And my approach has always been, well, okay, if that's all you can see, then why don't you flesh out your plan and flesh it out in a fashion that is legal and doable. And if you run into a wall, being able to flesh this plan out in a legal fashion and a doable fashion, then maybe you need to consider other alternatives, such as installing restrooms. If you're going to complain about human feces and urine behind businesses, in alleyways, in open fields, then the logical thing is to realize that you have no public restroom facilities and to create public restrooms where people can use them, and then that'll clean up the streets.
Makes sense to me.
It makes absolute sense.
Yeah, our second episode of this show was entitled Nowhere to Go.
Yeah.
And this one's Nowhere to Go to.
Sure.
And, it's just the reality.
We're human beings.
We're human beings. And, there's some really basic hygiene kind of essentials, that in order to, keep clean, keep dry, keep your clothes in decent shape. I mean, I don't think it's too much to ask.
Well, I don't think it's too much to ask, but once again, we're dealing with the polarization in consciousness in the community.
Right.
There's those that feel that anything, any gesture of any nature to assist this population in being able to keep a modicum of self-esteem, being able to use restroom facilities, launder their clothes, wash their hands, eat a meal. They feel it's enabling this population, and many of them feel as if that's the reason that they're here. The Mateel meal and Deborah's Friday meal have been literally blamed in the press and in public conversations for these populations' presence here.
See, I don't understand this because maybe the sociological factors are getting clearer now. This recession and this recovery, it's becoming very clear now that the recovery is, the money is going to the top incomes.
Yes.
95% of the income gains have gone to the 1%.
Exactly.
It's very stagnant. The jobs that are being created are part-time with no benefits.
Well, you have circumstances such as I refer to a large number of them as economic refugees. When you're in large urban areas, I remember my mom ran an apartment building, and we were close to University of California at Northridge. And students would come, decent kids, students would come to rent an apartment. But unless one individual out of the group that may be renting, one individual has to be able to carry the month's rent, or else they can't rent to them. They can't rent to a group of kids, so that if somebody bails on it, So you have circumstances, and in your cities, at least I'm familiar in California, you cannot get anything for under $1,500 a month in San Francisco or the Bay Area.
See, one of the things that Deborah and I and some others are talking about is we're calling it the Homeless Camping Alliance. and we're calling it Innovative Housing Alternatives.
That's a good term.
You know, it's like there are a lot of inexpensive ways to keep people out of the rain and be
there
warm
are.
and safe. And I mean, you know, from tents to small shelters, you know.
We're ever
and
creative. Most of us
Yeah,
that came
exactly,
up here, you know, started
exactly.
with a visqueen tent
Exa-
on a piece of property. You know, there are ways,
Right,
inexpensive ways.
and to make it, you know, to where people are taking care of themselves and just sort of cutting through that sort of, you know, all of the irritation and all of the agitation, and so we're going to be really focusing on solutions like that.
Right. Well, out of these roundtables, a group formed that was determined to approach areas that have been recognized that could be, through facilitating these different programs that we wanted to see happen, we could, in our opinion, help alleviate the pressure and make life better for everybody, the merchants and
Exactly.
the people on
Right.
the street. But what we have down here, we have no money in the budget. We are unincorporated. We have no government. And what it pretty much boils down to are the people with the voices of the merchants. They're the ones that get heard. And we have, as an example, we did a petition that went to the businesses, which had a proposal that went into the county for the Veterans for Peace to manage Jim DeMulling Veterans Memorial Park,
I remember that.
to manage it, to take care of the expenses, the cleanup, and everything for it. And that petition circulated, and we had close to 300 signatures, and 50 were from local businesses in support of a restroom at Jim DeMulling and the Veterans for Peace taking over the management of the property. But we have such a polarization in the community. A small number of Chamber of Commerce members are polarized in that elimination, eradication, and relocation consciousness. They are not budging on allowing us any place in town to put a restroom. So DeMulling was completely out of the question, even though we had a tremendous amount of support from the merchants. We do not have a voice at the base of county government, and we have no funds allocated for us to take care of any civic needs. There's nothing. If the trash gets picked up, the chamber works here in Garberville. Every place else, it's individuals that are out there doing it.
Yeah.
And you interviewed Mike Miller. Mike Miller is a member of our group.
Great guy.
Wonderful guy. And he's been working diligently and with the best of all attitudes, you know, to everybody.
Oh, he's a sweetheart.
To do the cleanup. And so what we have is a block from the county. The county, every time we've wanted to move forward with any of our projects, has said, you have to demonstrate to us that you have the support of the majority of your population down there. So we have run surveys. We've done surveys of every available locked and unlocked restroom in the area. We have done surveys in the newspaper. We have had petitions signed out. We have visited probably 10 different community groups from Rotary, the Chamber, Lions Club, Kiwanis, just everyone giving a presentation on what our intentions are, what we want to see happen. And we have, I think, about 17 signed memorandums of understanding from these different organizations in support of us being able to place public restrooms in the neighborhoods. And we still have got nothing but blocks from the county.
Would that be Public Works? Would that be Board of Supervisors?
Actually,
both?
Public Works seems to be a little more flexible because Humboldt Transit Authority has the funds to do an ADA compliant bus stop. Up at the south end of town, we have 3 buses. We have actually 4. Local transit bus through Humboldt Transit that goes between our little towns here and Eureka. Then we have the Amtrak bus and the Greyhound. And there's no restroom facilities. There are no restroom facilities for people to be able to use. So mothers with small children, elderly, there's no place for them to go to the bathroom when they get on the bus, get off the bus. Maybe they've come from San Francisco. So we figured that would be a good location. We got together with Humboldt Transit Authority, Greg Pratt, and had a meeting and took him down there. And they have to deepen the sidewalk. It's all county property there. There's a property owner and a vacant lot. There used to be a gas station there that the tanks were leaking, and so the ground is laid fallow for a while, and the owner is waiting to do something with the property. HTA said that they would lay us a pad so that we could access the water pipes down below. Our intention is to put, of our own design, a flushing toilet there. Something that's small, something that from security viewpoint, there's vents.
I really like the one they've got up at Willow Creek.
Right, I haven't seen that one.
Have you seen that? It's really neat, you know, and
Yeah.
it's right there by the bus stop, and it's really well maintained. It's by a museum, it's by a library. It's they've done a good job.
Right, well, we took our design ideas from the Portland Loo. And in urban Portland, they had, you know, trouble with transients and having nowhere to go to the bathroom. So since they established the loos, town has cleaned way up. People seem to have a little more self-respect, you know. And they also have a paper that they do up there that has interviews in it. It's a you know, a street paper with art, poetry, and stuff that puts in interviews with people that are out there on the street. And so what they have experienced is that now people coming into town and doing business, they recognize the person from the article. They say, hey, Bob, you know, hey, you go to destroy the negative mystique that is placed around these people, you know, as all being drug addicts, mentally ill, or, you know, there's a million sets of circumstances out there, 1,000 stories for 1,000 people. So they have had success in doing that.
Maybe you're making a little too much sense to cut through the nonsense.
I think that's probably a part of it. But where I'm at, I'm 66 years old, and I have really had it with the jive.
I hear you.
Come on, let's get solid, let's get real. You know, Einstein's theory of insanity is repeating the same things over and over and expecting a different outcome, expecting a different result. I have 25 years of experience in this town right here with the merchants being polarized to particular things they've never been able to flesh out their eradication, elimination, or relocation program.
It's kind of like a culture war.
It is. It's a culture war.
I think we should get some truce flags and just propose a truce and propose some kindness and some tolerance and some well wishes and say, look, we do need some alternatives. Okay, business as usual isn't working that well.
Oh, no. And it's painfully obvious. And the more people that show up this time of year, the more the pressure cooker starts whistling.
Yeah.
The more that certain members of this community start speaking like vigilantes.
Exactly.
And since they do not distinguish individuals out of this group, that's a terrible threat, because there are magnificent souls out there. Magnificent souls. And then the ones that don't appear to be so magnificent have health problems, have issues, and we have such a terrible mental health care system, you know. But what we did as a group, we started out, we did the surveys, gathering public support, information, and because we have the two little hamlets here, Garberville and Redway, we dealt with a private business owner in Redway and asked him if we could place a porta potty on his property, and he was completely supportive. And we've had that porta potty in Redway for a year and 5 months. There has never been a minute's problem with it. People don't wreck it, they don't tip it over, they don't steal the toilet paper, and the residents of that area have said that there's no more human feces on the hills. They haven't seen any of. So we have had no trouble. We've established that location. We're paying for it ourselves. And we'd do the same thing in this town if we could find a private property owner that would give us permission to do it.
So, Jackie, you and your group have working on this for 2 years, and I mean really working on it. You've done a lot, looking at all kinds of different possibilities. Just to kind of wrap this up, where are you at right now in terms of maybe a restroom?
Well, we're still gathering community support. We're still working on the HTA location. We're seeking to get permission from the county to put a ADA compliant porta potty down at Jim DeMulling Park. And we think that that will help alleviate the human waste issue in town. To do anything further, we need to get some visible support from the community, kind of like leaders, if you want to call them such. We would like to have the Chamber of Commerce come on board. And I had mentioned before that they had done that study to see what could be done regarding a town patrol. But the results of the study found that it would cost at least $70,000 to create a town patrol. And then further they found that they would literally just be herding people from one end of town to the other because they have no place to go. There's nowhere.
I would like to get that herding up and down town on video. I think that would be quite entertaining.
Well, it would be. It would be. I have laughed about
Pathetic,
it, you know.
pathetic,
Incredibly pathetic.
but entertaining.
They don't have the resources to enable them to flesh out that project.
Well, I wish you and your group all the luck and all the success that you deserve.
We just need a little shift.
That's
Maybe
it.
it's a little bit more than
That's
a
it.
little shift, but a shift in consciousness.
Okay.
We are all one.
That's it.
From the least to the most.
That's it.
We are all one.
I
And if people could grasp that realization, then they couldn't deny these people because they're a part of us.
And will continue to be.
Always. Always.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.